Have you ever been punched in the liver? Do you know what excruciating pain feels like?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download your podcast, the show is free. The show's always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So that was a gut punch. That was excruciating pain. Those are Miller Moss's words, the excruciating pain. Coach Riley called it a gut punch. I've done a little bit of fighting in my lifetime. I've been punched in the gut. I don't have a big fat one. I got a big fat nose. Been punched there before. I lived, survived. But when you get punched in the liver, like right under your ribs, right in there, that's going to drop you to your knees. As Miller Moss said post-game, it's an excruciating pain that this team is feeling right now after their 33-30 overtime loss to Penn State. I got news for everyone. That loss is going to hurt and it's going to linger for a long time. I hope this team can get off the mat and continue to fight and put their best foot forward. Because I don't know. Right now, I don't know which way this team's going to go. I mentioned it last week, and I wrote about this on wearesc.com. This game, especially now after the fact, reminds me of USC's game at home against Washington last year. Remember, USC lost that game 52-42. They couldn't stop anybody. At the end of the game, you saw the moment with Caleb Williams in his mom's arms breaking down. I didn't see any of that today. Nobody ran to the nurturing arms of their parents after the game. But I'm going to say this right now. I'll be honest. USC deserved to lose this game. They gave it away. Bottom line, plain and simple. And everybody involved helped out. In my opinion, this loss lies at the feet of the head coach and the coaching staff. Yes, the players didn't execute in key situations. I don't think they were put in the best situation to be successful. USC was leading 20-6 at halftime. Complete control. It looked like, wow, USC had figured it out. And even if Penn State gets back into the game, they know what they need to do to win. I mean, they had Penn State's running game under control. Literally, they had 71 yards at halftime on the ground. USC, much better than that. They had 147 yards rushing on the ground. Where the script got flipped was Penn State was forced to throw the ball, and they really only needed one guy to make things happen for them. We're going to talk about their tight end Tyler Warren here shortly, but I'll tell you right now, my instant reaction, my gut feeling, I've just about had it with Coach Riley's clock management skills, or the lack thereof. This team fights their butts off, and they keep coming up short. This is 3 games in a row. Here's what Coach Riley said after the game. Quote, hard-fought game, just a really difficult loss. There's really no way to sugarcoat that. Our guys fought their ass off from beginning to end. As a coach, you can't ask for anything more than the effort that our guys put on the field. 2 good football teams going at it. Come down to the last play, and it hurts to be able to not get this done. We had a few games like this where we've had our chances to win there at the end. And to not make the plays, to not have some of the breaks bounce your way, it's a gut punch. There's no doubt about it. We're very disappointed with not finishing it off. I'm proud of the way that the guys fought. I'm proud of the way the team played and gave ourselves a lot of opportunities to win it. We've got some work to do. We've definitely made some critical errors in some of these games that we haven't won where we've got opportunities to finish teams off, and that's something that we all have to do a better job of. We got to identify, we got to coach better, we've got to continue to progress as a team. We got a united bunch of guys in that room that are hurting right now because they love playing the game with each other. I think you can tell that they love playing the game for each other for USC. And that's why you see us play the way we play, close quote. First of all, as far as identifying, let's identify that guy who wears number 44 for Penn State, their tight end. I think he played every position for the Nittany Lions today. Played a little bit of offensive line, played tight end, a little bit of fullback, even threw the ball, played receiver, did everything, ran the ball. That's creative play calling. Everything that I gave, that quote that I gave you from Coach Riley, that's all coach speak. And I'm not dismissing it at all. But remember when I said that learning how to win takes time? If you're an everyday listener of the show, you've heard me mention this before. At a certain point, this head coach has to make better decisions. And he's got to put his players in the best possible position to be successful. You have to help them understand the situation. And that means not banking your timeouts at the end of the game. You had 3 of them. Use them. In fact, it was the first question asked of Coach Riley after the game in the press conference on the decision whether to use a timeout or not in that final minute. Quote, we talked about it a little bit when we had the lost yardage play on. I think it was first down at that point, started talking about it. All right, do we need to use timeouts to stop the clock? I think it was a 2nd and 12, if I remember right, because we're talking about it. Do we need to use timeouts to stop the clock here? Because all of a sudden, it's 2nd and 12. If you don't get anything there, then it's 3rd and goal, and you just potentially bought them a series. And we weren't in field goal range yet, so we went back and forth on it. Do we use them? Do we stop the clock? Honestly, I felt so good about how Mike Lance was hitting the ball that we said when we got, I think it was 3rd and 6, if we convert this, we still have timeouts. Maybe we got one more shot and let them kick the field goal. So how well was Mike kicking it was the biggest reason why I wanted to make sure that it was the last possession. He could have had all of that still and used a timeout. One, just one. Because it looks like you're playing prevent offense. Why are you playing for a walk-off field goal? Why are you putting that much pressure on your team, on one player? That walk-off field goal, that should be the backup plan. How about using your timeouts? Settle the team down. Make sure everyone's ready to execute. In fact, you're giving the opposition something to think about. You have the team at midfield with over a minute and 2 plays to convert. Instead, what did you do? You waited for Coach James Franklin on the other sideline to call a timeout with 15 seconds on the clock. And we know what happened after that. Miller Moss threw a bad ball over Deuce Robinson's head. Again, had USC utilized one of their timeouts, kind of settled everybody down and said, all right, look, we've got 2 downs to convert this. We're not going to leave on a field goal unless we have to. We're going to go get the first down, and we're going to keep pushing. We're going to stay aggressive. Didn't happen. So Coach was also asked about, on being just, quote, a few plays away from a win. It always falls to me. When have I ever shied away from the responsibility? I always take it. I'm the head coach. It's all my job. Believe me, there's nobody taking more responsibility than I am. So I don't know where that line of questions comes from. It's the good and the bad of it. It both exists. The reality is we've played the toughest schedule in the country the first 6 games. We had a chance to win every single game, and that's hard to do. To put yourself in a position to win these games is freaking hard to do to begin with. So we're doing a lot of good. And I understand that good is not going to get seen by the outside right now because they're going to focus on the record and the fact that we've lost 3 games on the last play of the game. And I understand that's part of it. We all knew this was what we signed up for. It's big boy football. So I get it. We've got to do a better job at the end of games. I have to do a better job. Our coaches, our players, because We're doing too many good things to put us in situations where we have the lead and we can win, but we've got to get paid for it. We've got to get paid off for it, I guess is what he said. We've got to be able to finish, and it all falls on my shoulders at the end, and that's part of why they call me head coach, close quote. That's why everyone's upset. At a certain point, you have to win one of these games. Mistakes, execution mistakes, those are going to happen. But the head coach has to recognize, look, I've seen the script before, and if I'm the director, I'm saying, let's do something different. Let's not stick to that game plan, coach. 3 games in a row. 3 games in a row that USC lost games that they probably should have won. And don't even get me started on the officiating. Again, I don't get it. In overtime, that should have been a pass interference call on Penn State. Instead, no call. USC misses a long field goal. Go figure, right? That's what Coach Riley was depending on at the end of regulation. And don't even get me started on that roughing the passer penalty they called on Anthony Lucas. What the hell was that? What was that? His hand hit the guy's foot, and all of a sudden, Drew Allar is going to act like he's up for an Academy Award. The big conference should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to happen. This is happening every single game that USC is involved with, and it's got to stop. They did not lose because of the officiating, but that crap isn't helping. You cannot be taking plays away from USC and giving extra plays to the opposition, and that's been happening week after week after week. You're not going to call pass interference? USC, figure it out. Start playing defense like that. Because this crap is getting out of control, and it only adds to everybody's frustration, including the coaching staff and the players. Look, I'm sure a lot of you drank before the game. I'm sure a lot of you are drinking after the game trying to make this feeling go away. I got something for you. Look, ZBiotics. It's a pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists that want to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into like this toxic byproduct in your gut. We're going to talk about the gut a lot here. It's this byproduct. It's not the dehydration. That's not what's causing your rough day the next day. Here's what you have to do. It's real easy because ZBiotics creates this enzyme in your gut, and it's going to take away that crappy feeling the day after you've been drinking. Step 1, drink ZBiotics pre-alcohol for the best results. Make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself. Hydrate and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, when you wake up in the next day, you're going to wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more, and you're going to get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On at checkout. Locked On College is your code at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. NFL fans, you're into the season. You probably want a big return, right? You can do that on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch and you want to see a replay, head on over to FanDuel. You don't just place your bets there. You can now check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, and you can do a whole lot more than that. And if you've never used FanDuel before, here's your chance. You're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. On the last episode of Locked on USC, I asked everybody, what's it going to take for USC to win this game? This is what I said. I said, if USC wants to win on Saturday, They needed to continue to stop the run game. Check. They did that. And they got to continue to stop it over and over and over again. Check, check, check. Penn State, coming into this game, they averaged 40 run attempts per game, and about half of that through the air. Remember those numbers. I'm going to come back to that here real quickly. And just like against Michigan and against Minnesota, you have to stop Penn State's run game. They averaged 217 yards per game, 5.3 yards per rushing attempt. And again, USC going into the game, defensively, they were getting 158 yards per game, just under 5 yards a carry. The other thing I said was you can't allow Penn State's quarterback to use the RPO game and confuse the defense, create big plays. Well, he didn't. Instead, he used his arm. Let me give you some stats here. Penn State throwing the ball. 30 completions, 43 pass attempts. 30 for 43. 391 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's the other part of this thing. 3 interceptions. USC created 3 turnovers. Meanwhile, only 31 rushing attempts. Well, I shouldn't say, yeah, only 31, less than their 40 average, and only 118 yards on the ground. Okay. If I told you USC is going to get 3 interceptions and they're going to keep the Penn State running game to 118 yards for the entire game, you're probably over at FanDuel collecting your winnings. Ball doesn't always bounce your way, does it? They did what I asked. They literally followed the script. But I guess I forgot to remind them about the tight end. Penn State's tight end, his name is Taylor Warren. Like I said, he did everything. He threw the ball, 1 pass, 1 completion, 9 yards. He ran the ball 1 time, 4 yards. He was their leading wide receiver. 17 catches, 224 yards. 151 of those came after the catch. He wasn't open. He was wide open. These look like blown coverage type of things. I mean, that's how open he was. That's why he was running like, oh, it feels like practice. It was crazy how a safety or a linebacker or whomever, a nickelback, whomever was supposed to be covering him couldn't. At a certain point in the game, you say, you know what? I need a spy on that guy. Somebody else beat us. Do not let that dude beat us again. I don't know what happened. What I do, well, I do. USC lost. Again, 3 interceptions, and they still lost. You held them to 118 rushing yards. You still lost. But you gave up 400 yards passing. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. What's wrong with USC's wide receivers? Why are, and I think this is part of what's in Lincoln Riley's head, is he's thinking about too many things. He talked about we talked about in the first segment. You know, should we call a timeout? Should we not call a timeout? If we do call a timeout, will this happen? Will that happen? Dude, it's like paralysis by analysis. Simplify things. Call the timeouts. Settle your team down. Settle yourself down. That way you can think more clearly. You had 3 timeouts. I keep coming back to this because it's infuriating. It's infuriating. The fact that we're talking about his clock management after every single game. I'm going to say it again. If Coach Riley wants to take the next step as a head coach, he needs to give up play calling. He needs to hire an offensive coordinator. Period. Full stop. I don't care how close he wants to be to the players. Great head coaches. They sit on their perch. They delegate. There's too many things to be involved with. You got to be in charge of the defense. You got to be in charge of the offense, special teams. You have to have a hand in everything. But if you're so focused on the offense and calling plays, you're taking time away from those other things, and especially what's happening during the game. All right, we got one more segment coming up. In this instant reaction show, USC 30, Penn State 33, loss in overtime. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks that's usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold, they can earn a very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of a high net worth for any net worth. So you might not be worth the same amount of money as Lincoln Riley, but you can be treated like Lincoln Riley. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. I know you can afford that. I know Lincoln Riley can afford that. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right. Before I get out of here with this instant reaction show, because the more I talk about it, it is cathartic. It is a little bit, allowing me to vent and get it out. But the bile just keeps coming up. I can taste it right now. I'm not happy. I literally went into halftime thinking, wow, this is going to be a great, fun, instant reaction post-game show. Woo. Not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. Not so fast, my friend. We do a lot of writing over there at wearesc.com, and we do what we call our 5 things of the game. Well, here's the biggest takeaway. This USC team cannot make the play to win the game this season. Period. I mean, it looked like, I don't know. I'm starting to lose my train of thought here, but the offense isn't clicking, even when it's inconsistent. And the offensive line, it didn't play great, but they didn't play that bad compared to their other games. For the most part, they were okay. They need to get a lot better. They were faced with the same situation where the offense put up 3 and outs against Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Again, these last 3 games, USC took the ball 75 yards, 9 plays. There was just under 11 minutes to play in this game. They drove the field. They took a 30-23 lead. They were set up for the win. From there, nobody made a play. Nobody. The defense, they allowed 2 fourth-down conversions. And while Nick Singleton, their running back, wasn't running all over the place, he was wide open for that game-tying touchdown in regulation. Again, whose assignment got missed? It was a blown coverage type of wide open. We're not talking like 4 or 5 yard separation. Running back running the wheel route and beating a linebacker. It wasn't like that. Dude was wide open. And then I mentioned the wide receivers. I don't know what's going on right now, but they're having a really hard time. I don't know why we're throwing jump ball passes to Zachariah Branch down the sideline. He's not a jump ball guy. And he's getting caught from behind, even when he has open field, in the open space. Where is the blocking on the outside? There was one pass play, 3 USC hats out there against 2 defenders. Nobody got a hat on anybody. Minimal pickup. That's got to stop. Miller Moss said after the game, that was the number 4 team. So what does that make us? Well, that makes you 3-3. Unranked. And I don't know where this team is going right now. I don't put all of this on Miller, but he's got to hit that throw when he overthrew Deuce Robinson. So that's one play that you want one of your leaders to make. What about Jamil Muhammad? Dude, you got to make that sack when it's 4th down and 10. You got to. You got to make a play. I mean, you were there. I need the offensive line. Those guys, you got to figure out your pass protection. I get it. You only allowed 1 sack. You didn't allow that many pressures. But I think we're at the point of the season now where Miller is hearing footsteps even when they're not there, and it's starting to affect his throws. I know we always like to point out the one mistake. I think this is the right time for this anecdote. I was listening to Denzel Washington, the actor, tell a story. Really good storyteller. And he was talking about Albert Einstein, how he was teaching a class. And I get it. This was a little bit of a probably made up. Nevertheless, Albert Einstein was saying 9 times 1 equals 9. 9 times 2 equals 18. 9 times 3 equals 27. And he continued 9 times 4, 9 times 5, yada, yada, yada. He got to 9 times 10, and he said the answer is 91. Everybody in the classroom starts laughing and pointing at Albert Einstein. The smartest guy made a mistake. And Albert Einstein took a moment and said, hey, I just solved 9 problems successfully in a row. But the only thing you're going to remember is my one mistake. That's where we're at with USC football right now. They're doing all the right things so many different times, enough to win the game. But we remember the one mistake they made. Is that fair? Probably not. But it's the same mistake. At a certain point, Professor Riley has to figure it out. You have a team that's learning how to win. They're prone to making mistakes in the least opportune time. Got to put them in a better position. And if that means calling a timeout, everybody, let's settle down. Let's make sure everyone's on the same page. Know your assignment. Let's go get the win. Let's make sure everybody knows that 9 times 10 is 90. It's not 91. Albert Einstein knows 9 times 10 is 90. But he was trying to make a point with everybody. He purposely made the mistake to show everybody, hey, you can be successful 9 out of 10 times, and nobody's going to appreciate that. They want to find the one mistake to knock you down. That's life. That's USC football right now. All right, there you go. That's my instant reaction show. I will be back with another episode of Locked On USC. We'll break down this game a little bit more. We're going to be talking about it for the next few episodes, I'm sure. USC's on a short week. They play Maryland next Friday. Hopefully they're ready. We'll find out. Till that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.